Welcome back, everyone, to the Table of Strangers podcast. Today's episode is going to be about the cost of telling the truth. Telling the truth in this world and finding out the truth in this world can ultimately, unfortunately, lead to persecution, can lead to people hating you. It can even lead to, unfortunately, death. That is just that's just what happens because we live in a sinful world. We live in a evil, wicked world. And especially considering the obvious that everyone knows now, Charlie Kirk's passing. He was assassinated on September 10th. But people will ask, why do good people tend to pass away? Why do good people like Charlie, like all the other Christians throughout the world, why do they pass away? Why do they die, especially in brutal ways? Well, if we open up the Bible, we go to the Old Testament, Isaiah chapter 57, verse 1 to 2. It says, good people pass away, the godly often die before their time. But no one seems to understand that God is protecting them from the evil to come. For those who follow godly paths will rest in peace when they die. So we may not understand why God allows these things to happen, especially the most wicked, evil things. We may not understand it. But God calls us to trust in Him, not to just understand Him. We can't understand something that's divine with a natural brain. You can't understand something supernatural with a natural brain. It's just not going to happen. He's beyond our universe. He's outside of our universe. We can't comprehend his way of thinking. It's just impossible. So when people ask, why does God allow these things to happen? Why does God allow evil to happen? Why does God allow these people to die and pass away? Especially in, like I said, wicked and horrible ways. Well, now look at what happened after Charlie's death. Charlie died at 12:23 p.m. He was shot at 12:23 p.m. and passed away. Now, you go to John chapter 12 verse 23 to 24. Says, this is Jesus talking. Jesus says, "The hour has come for the Son of Man to be glorified. Very truly I tell you, unless a kernel of wheat falls to the ground and dies, it remains only a single seed. But if it dies, it produces many seeds." There are no coincidences in this world or miracles without God. There's no way that Charlie was assassinated at 12:23 just out of coincidence, and just out of coincidence, it aligns up with John chapter 12 verses 23. That's insane because now if you think now look at the world right now in the state that it's in. Suddenly you have atheists, you have agnostics, you have other people in other religions, just people in general who just did not really care about any of those things either. Suddenly they're flooding the internet saying, "Oh, going back to church after 20 years. Never been to church, never cared about it, just now going. I didn't even give Jesus a thought before, but now I am because of Charlie. I'm going to attend church to fill in the seat that he couldn't." There's so many people on the internet saying that. So what the enemy intends for evil, God can use it to carry out good. And in the New Testament, Paul writes, paraphrasing, that basically we need to focus on the glory to come and not the storm that's currently happening. When Jesus was walking on the water and he told Peter to come out and walk to him, Peter began to walk on the water. But the storm around him, he was so focused on the storm, he looked away from Jesus for just a split second. And the second he looked away from Jesus, he began to sink. Why is that? Peter began to sink into the water because he took his eyes and focus off of Jesus. If we focus on Jesus, the same guy who wins in the end, if we just focus on him, he will make our path straight. But the second we start focusing on other things that are happening around us, the evil, the wickedness, then we will slowly veer off. We'll slowly go off course and begin to sink. So we need to understand that God is wanting us to trust in him and his ways. And sometimes situations like Charlie and other thousands of other Christians throughout the world being persecuted, being murdered, being oppressed in their countries. These things happen for a reason. They don't just happen for no reason. Jesus said in, I don't believe I wrote it. Oh, yeah, I did. Jesus says in John chapter 15, verses 18 to 20, if the world hates you, keep in mind that it hated me first. If they persecuted me, they will persecute you also. You cannot expect a world that crucified, that persecuted, that hated Jesus. You cannot expect that kind of world to let you off the hook as well. You're talking about a man who was both fully man and fully God, and they spat on him. They put the crown of thorns on him, beat him. And from other sources that I've heard, it was his walk to the crucifixion was a lot more brutal than we say it is. I'm talking beard hanging off from being whipped so much, back exposed open. You could see his ribs. If the world is willing to do that to a literally perfect person, he was perfect. You cannot expect the world to not do the same to you. That's why Jesus tells us to pick up our crosses daily. What does that mean? What does picking up your cross daily mean? It means be willing to lay down your life, be willing to go through trials and tribulations, be willing to obey God no matter what. You stand firm on truth. And that's exactly what Charlie did. He stand firm in his beliefs. As so many other Christians, again, throughout the world, they stand firm in their beliefs. They preach the truth of the gospel. And in this world, preaching the truth can get you hurt. And that's just going to happen. Jesus says that these things have to happen. These things are going to happen before he comes back. And now we look at after Charlie's death, we see that so many people are coming to Jesus. So many people are proclaiming Christ as Lord. Even though Charlie was assassinated, there's still good that God managed to take away from such a tragedy. What we perceive to be the most wicked, evil, vile thing, God can see it as an opportunity to grow his kingdom. And then if we look in in 2 Timothy chapter 4 verses 3 to 4 says, Paul writes, Timothy, I think it's Timothy who writes it. For the time will come when people will not put up with the sound doctrine. Instead, they will turn their ears away from the truth. There will be people who do not care for the truth. They will only go after what their ears are itching to hear. You can tell a fool 1,000 facts, and they could still believe in their own opinions. It doesn't matter how truthful it doesn't matter how much truth we know. It doesn't matter who we tell the truth to if those people are not willing to act on that truth. If they just shrug it off. Oh well, our job as followers of Christ, our job is to plant the seed. It's God's job, it's the Holy Spirit's job to convict them of their sins. It's the Holy Spirit's job to convert. Our job is to plant, it's God's job to water. Only He can truly change a person. A human cannot change a human. We can convict, we can righteously judge them and say what you're saying or doing is very wrong. It's not okay. It opposes God. You're disobeying God. You need to work on it. Do your best. I believe in you. Jesus has better things for you. He loves you. Done. Anything past that is for God to do, to act on. The conversion is God's job. And then, like I said, it's not gonna get any easier. Christians, we're gonna be persecuted. We're gonna be rejected. We're gonna be hated. And then, of course, obviously, like I keep saying, we will eventually have our lives ended because of how the world is. It's just going to happen, especially during the tribulation period. Preaching the truth, you have to be willing to pick up your cross. You have to be willing for the possibility of being crucified, of being murdered. You have to be willing. If you look in the Old Testament, Jeremiah, he was persecuted for prophesying God's judgment. Daniel, he was persecuted for praying to God instead of the king. Then he was thrown into the lion's den because of it. Zechariah was killed for speaking the truth. He was stoned to death in the temple court because he rebuked Israel's disobedience. And then John the Baptist, he was imprisoned and beheaded by Herod for telling the truth about Herod's unlawful marriage. He righteously judged Herod, I think I'm saying his name right. He righteously judged him because of his unlawful marriage. So no matter how much you speak the truth, do not expect the outcome to be beautiful. Do not expect the outcome to be good. There are people in this world who do not want to hear truth nor care for the truth. Some people's hearts are so hardened, you can't even talk to them about the truth. They're going to shake it off. What do you do in that situation if you come across such a person? You pray for him. There's nothing you can possibly do. You pray for him, and you pray that the Holy Spirit convicts them. Only the Holy Spirit can change such a person. So, it's sad, but just like what just like what Kanye West once said, telling the truth is crazy in a world full of lies. And that quote is very true, especially talking about Jesus. If the world hates you, just remember it has hated me first. That is what Jesus has told all of us. Stand firm in your beliefs. Stand firm in the cross. Pick up your cross every day. Be willing to obey God, not just follow God. You may know God, but do you obey God? These are questions to think about. It's important to try to get our lives on track because we don't know when the final hour is for Jesus' second coming, and we don't know when our final hour is. We don't know when we'll pass away. Give Jesus a chance. I'll see you guys in the next episode.